Hello, everyone. I'm Cadet First Sergeant Bellamy with Jackson County JROTC, and I'm happy to present to you the 2020 Veterans Day PowerPoint. Veterans Day is important because it is a time when we celebrate the men and women who have served our country. So today we will be going over the origin and the history of Veterans Day. To understand where Veterans Day comes from, we must look back at the First World War. World War I began on July 28, 1914, and lasted until June 28, 1919. However, the U.S. did not enter the war until April 6, 1917. The war did not cease between the Allies and Central Powers until the 11th of November, 1918. The U.S. enters the war. In early 1917, German submarines had launched attacks against U.S. ships. One of the most publicized attacks was the U-boat attack on the SS Lusitania, a British passenger ship which carried many Americans aboard. 1,197 men, women, and children perished from this attack. In January of 1917, Germany secretly corresponds with Mexico with the intent of developing an alliance against the United States. The message consisted of how Germany and Mexico would gain back territory from the U.S. This message was known as the Zimmerman Telegraph. Due to the aggressive actions taken by Germany, the U.S. finally entered the First World War. President Woodrow Wilson. Although the United States was not in the war the full duration, President Woodrow Wilson guided the U.S. throughout World War I the short time that we were involved. As some people said, he kept us out of war. General John J. Pershing, also known as Blackjack. General Pershing was the commanding general of the AEF, short for American Expeditionary Force. The AEF consisted of units from the United States that fought on the Western Front during World War I. World War I casualties. The number of civilian and military casualties during World War I is estimated to be around 40 million. Of the 4.7 million U.S. military personnel sent to the Western Front during the First World War, 116,516 were killed and approximately 320,000 were sick or wounded. Most of the U.S. casualties were not as a result of direct enemy engagement, but by disease. The influenza epidemic of 1918. Disease accounted for much of the death seen in the First World War amongst all nations. On November 11, 1918, an armistice was signed between the Central Powers and the Allies, bringing the First World War to a close. The armistice was signed on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. Though the armistice brought peace between the Central Powers and Allies, this was not the official treaty to end the First World War. The official treaty was the Treaty of Versailles, which was signed in 1919. Armistice Day. In 1919, President Wilson proclaimed November 11th as the first commemoration of Armistice Day, with the following words. To us in America, the reflections of Armistice Day will be filled with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service and with gratitude for the victory, both because of the thing from which it has freed us and because of the opportunity it has given America to show her sympathy with peace and justice in the councils of the nations. The original idea for the celebration was for parades, public meetings, and a brief suspension of businesses beginning at 11 a.m. In 1954, after the U.S. had served through both World War II and the Korean War, Congress urged veterans service organizations to amend the Act of 1938, striking out the words armistice and replacing it with the word veterans. With the approval of this legislation, November 11th became a day to honor American veterans of all wars. Veterans Day. On October 8, 1954, President Dwight D. Eisenhower issues the first official Veterans Day proclamation. In this proclamation, it stated, in order to ensure proper and widespread observance of this anniversary, all veterans organizations, and the entire citizenry will wish to join hands in the common purpose. Toward this end, I am designating the Administrator of Veterans Affairs as Chairman of a Veterans Day National Committee, which shall include such other persons as the Chairman may select, and which will coordinate at the national level necessary planning for the observance. I am also requesting the heads of all departments and agencies of the executive branch of the government to assist the National Committee in every way possible. President Eisenhower simply made the first official change from Armistice Day to what we now know as Veterans Day. Veterans Day and Memorial Day. People often confuse Veterans Day and Memorial Day to be the same thing. However, there are distinct differences between the two. Veterans Day is a day in which we celebrate those veterans who are living who have served during both peace and wartime. Memorial Day, however, is a day in which we commemorate those who have perished or were injured in the line of duty. How can I honor veterans on Veterans Day? It is important that we honor and respect the veterans who have served our country. There are many different ways that you can show your respect for veterans, one of which might be to verbally thank a veteran for their service. Another way you could thank a veteran is by sending them a message or writing them a letter thanking them for their service. We also show respect for our veterans when we stand for the national anthem whenever it is played. There are many more ways you can show your respect for veterans, but these are just a few. Veterans Day facts. Did you know that Veterans Day was not always celebrated on November 11th? A bill passed by Congress declared Veterans Day would be the fourth Monday in October. However, Veterans Day was returned to the 11th of November by President Gerald Ford. Did you know that in Europe it is common to observe 2 minutes of silence at 11 a.m. every November 11th? Great Britain, France, Canada, and Australia all have a Remembrance Day on November 11th dedicated to those who died during the First World War. Did you know that there are approximately 19.5 million veterans in the United States today? You now know the origins of Veterans Day and that it dates back to the First World War. You now know that Armistice Day eventually became Veterans Day. You also know that there is a difference between Veterans Day and Memorial Day and that they are not the same. You also know that there are several things that you can do to honor and show your respect for the veterans of our country on Veterans Day. It is very important that we do not forget and that we celebrate the veterans who have served our country because they have protected the freedoms that we enjoy today. Thank you for your time and watching this program. Thank you.